Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a pretty big question. Can our mistakes, our failures, actually derail everything? We're looking at a story from Genesis for some insight.
Exactly. We're drawing from a daily devotion called God's Will is Inevitable, centered on Genesis 27 and 33.
Okay.
There's this intense moment in verse 33 where Isaac, trembling, realizes he blessed the wrong son, Jacob, but says, I blessed him, and indeed he will be blessed.
Wow. So our mission for you listening is to explore this idea that, well, maybe even when we mess up badly, there's still a larger purpose at work.
Right. What can we learn about, let's call it a bigger plan, and how do we handle our own missteps with that in mind?
Okay, let's get into the story first. Isaac intends to bless Esau, his firstborn, but Jacob, with his mother Rebekah's help, deceives him.
Yep, classic deception story. Jacob gets the blessing meant for Esau,
Yeah.
and when Isaac figures it out, he doesn't retract it. He's shaken, sure, but he says the blessing stands.
So what's the key takeaway there? It seems almost counterintuitive.
Well, I think what's really striking is this sense that God's sovereign plan, his promises, they aren't actually dependent on us being perfect. His purpose isn't fragile. It doesn't shatter just because people make mistakes, even big ones like deception. It's based on his power, not our flawless performance.
That sounds incredibly freeing, actually.
It can be. So if you feel you've really messed up, this story offers some reassurance. It doesn't excuse the mistake, obviously. Repentance is still vital.
Right.
But it suggests maybe don't sink into despair thinking you've completely wrecked God's purpose for you. It might not be thwarted.
So for someone listening who feels stuck after a mistake, what's the actionable thought?
First, trust the progress can still happen. It might look different, but it's possible. And maybe practice, surrendering that feeling of needing absolute control.
Like saying, okay, Lord, have your way, even if I messed up and can't see the path forward.
Exactly that. Finding peace in the strength of the promise itself, rather than dwelling only on the failure.
Okay, but the story doesn't end there. This deception, it causes problems.
Oh, absolutely. It creates, as the devotion puts it, a huge mess. Esau is deeply bitter. Understandably.
Yeah.
And you see, even if Rebekah and Jacob thought they were helping fulfill God's plan, their methods, deception, manipulation, caused real pain and division.
That highlights the danger of trying to force things, doesn't it? Taking matters into our own hands, especially unethically.
Precisely. It's that temptation to make things happen our way, on our timeline, even if it means compromising values.
How does that play out today? I mean, that temptation is everywhere.
It really is. Think about work, relationships, anywhere. We might be tempted to cut corners or manipulate situations for what seems like a good outcome or personal advancement.
Or even just constantly comparing ourselves to others, feeling like we need to force our way to get what they have.
Yes, that comparison trap is huge. This story warns against that. It encourages patience, trusting in your own path and blessings, rather than trying to wrestle for someone else's through wrong means.
So the practical advice seems to be, don't compromise your values for perceived gains. Avoid the comparison game.
And cultivate patience. Pray for it. Trust God's timing even when it's hard. And maybe practice gratitude daily, focusing on what you do have.
That definitely shifts the focus. Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, what's the core message we should walk away with?
I think the central comfort is that even when we stumble, even badly, a larger plan, God's purpose, can still unfold. It's about his sovereignty, not our perfection.
So trust his promises.
Yes, trust his promises and resist that urge to force outcomes through methods that cause harm or compromise your integrity.
Right. So if we had to boil it down, echoing the devotion's title, God's plan always stands.
That sums it up well. And here's maybe a final thought for you to mull over.
Okay.
Think about a time you felt you significantly derailed something important in your life. Knowing now that a larger purpose could still potentially be at work, even through or despite that mistake. How might that shift your perspective on that situation today?